Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Belmont Journal. We have Franklin Tucker, editor of the Belmontonian, and I am here, Mike Crowley. Franklin, let's talk about the news this week. First up, we have a new school superintendent who has been named. What can you tell us?
Yes, her name is Dr. Jill Geiser. She is from Billerica. She's the assistant superintendent there, and she was selected after a bit of a contentious process to hire her. She was one of three finalists. She received a mostly positive vote from the school committee. It was a 5-1 vote, and she's going to be our next superintendent if she can sign a contract with us.
So let me ask you, Franklin, what was contentious about the situation?
Well, it was just I think it all stemmed from how everybody wanted this to be done as quickly as possible,
right.
And it really. And I think there was a lot of people who said, "Look, let's take our time. You know, this is a very important role. We're going to be going through some very hard budgeting in the future. We've got also a number of demands that people want to see the schools go into. Let's wait. Let's take our time. Maybe take an interim. We've been very successful with interims. We had Tom Kingston back more than a decade ago. Came here for 2 years, did a great job. So there were a lot of people who said, "Look." This is too quick. Let's slow it down. The school committee basically said, "Look, let's just go with the process that we agreed to." And there was, who were going to be the candidates, who were going to be the finalists, and it appeared, just by talking to people on the search committee, it appeared that there was only two candidates who were the finalists, but then the school committee added two more. One of those two added ones, I believe, got another job somewhere else,
right?
And that caused a concern among the people who were on the the selection committee, who said, "What are we here for? If you're not listening to what we're giving you,
No, we heard that from one member of the screening committee who.
Well, I've talked to a number of them, and they were all a little annoyed by that.
But to be fair, the candidate who was chosen was one of the two finalists that the screening committee put forward. So,
that serves that showed that the people who were selected were the person who ultimately was selected as the new superintendent was worthy of being a finalist.
Now, let me ask you, there were some parents in the community who were circulating a petition,
mm-hmm.
And there were some people in the community saying things like, we think each of these candidates are too political. What did they mean by that?
Well, each of the candidates had a rough spot in the last year or two. When you look at the two leading finalists, so that was Kimo Carter, who's an assistant superintendent at Weston, and Geiser. They both had a little bit of controversy there, and I think there's also a part of the community, the Belmont community, who are not as left-leaning as the rest of the town. They would like to ask questions about diversity and inclusion, whether we should be pushing that as much as we should. They see that as a political issue. There's other things that that they point to, legitimate concerns, and it was brought up during the public comment section when the candidates were all here. So it was talked about, and sometimes that rhetoric was a little heated. There was, if you looked online, and that was and I don't know if it's a shocking thing, but I've never seen a police officer who was at a school committee meeting, and I think that was just there because just the way society is nowadays. No one wanted a disruption. No one wanted to see somebody try to take over the debate that was on Wednesday.
Well, fortunately, the main role that the officer served at that meeting was to
make sure the light would come back on.
right. The lights are automatically
Dimming.
go out if or dim if there's not enough movement in the room, and so.
Yeah, and I think I asked Meg Moriarty, who's the chair of the school committee, after the vote, about what those citizens were calling a flawed process, or they should have started again. And as she defended the process, she thinks, but she admitted, she said there is evidence still of a lot of frustration in the district among parents. And what she had thought it was that this process would bring the community back together, except it really didn't. It just kind of hardened, opinions among people. And she thinks, and as she said to me, I think there obviously still more needs to be done in terms of transparency and communication,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to play a role in that. And she says, I don't dismiss their feelings at all. I really value their feelings, but I also don't dismiss the process. And I think she defended it quite well. She did. It didn't dissolve into something that could have even been like what we see across the country when political sides get together at school committee meetings. So it was she did a very good job in just making sure that people were heard, but the process continued.
All right, Franklin.
And I should say, there's also one other thing.
Yeah.
Geyser will also be part of a new team where we are going to see a interim assistant
superintendent to replace Janice Darius, who's retiring.
That's right, and that person will be named soon. Mm-hmm. So and we're going to have another process in terms of finding a assistant superintendent, which will be a much I think the school committee will take a little bit more time in terms of finding that person.
All right, Franklin. So the new superintendent, Dr. Jill Geyser, if the contract negotiations are successful, she would step into that role on July 1st.
That's right, for a 3-year contract.
All right. So next up, we have an election on Tuesday. And Franklin, is this a controversial election?
Not so much controversial, but it is a last hope for the rink, the municipal rink.
That's right.
We shouldn't say it's just a municipal skating rink. It's more of a municipal rink slash community center. It's something that it's getting its second bite at the apple.
Mm-hmm.
It was defeated back in November at the general election, but because the margin was about 350 votes. The select board decided to give it another try. Let's see if they can move forward on this. The rink is 10% less costly. It's at $29.95 million.
Mm-hmm. And what did they shave off to?
It was just some square footage. Like you no longer have a second floor community area.
Okay.
There's certain little things that were done. One of the big things was, of course, they're not trying to recycle some of the pieces of the existing rink. They're just going to build a new one, which didn't really bring down cost. And there's a 1.3 or 1.4 million dollars now in support that Belmont Youth Hockey has, gathered. So it's
private donations.
Private donations, and there's a real hope. And I talked to a number of the people who were in the rink community, and they say, look, we could actually see some significant corporate buy-in for naming rights or taking some time, taking time on the rink, because it's really important. And this rink is also, I should say, it's a community rink because it's going to be a 12-year rink, right? Because right now it's open in November.
A 12-year,
a
12-month,
12-month, all year round rink, and that is because while the rink will have ice on it from I think October to April, let's say. Mm-hmm. The other times it'll be used by the community, whether it's for sporting things like pickleball and tennis, but also places where we can have camping. Campers can come there. It'll be just more of a community area. So it's not just for the small percentage of people who skate in this town, but it's going to be for everybody.
All right, that sounds good. And then Franklin, the other big issue apart who's running in the races, for the Tuesday's election is the um, the provision to move to an appointed town treasurer. What's your expectation about that?
Well, I think well, because no one's running. If you don't vote for the appointed treasurer, what you're going to have is just somebody who wins the write-in votes. But there are people saying write-in Floyd Carmen, who is the current person, the current for the last 18 years has been the treasurer. But I don't think that's going to really work because Floyd is saying, I'm retired.
Yeah.
he doesn't want to. He says this is it. He doesn't want to do the job anymore, even though he's been a fantastic person with the money of the town, securing money and making sure we're getting it the best we can with tax money.
Well, maybe he could be persuaded to retain the office for a few weeks.
I think that may be what will occur is that if this passes, I think it will.
Mm-hmm.
There's been no opposition. There's been no saying let's keep it elected. So what will happen is because it will take we'll have to search and find a new treasurer, and that may take a bit because all communities are looking for treasurers and financial people. So it might be just a little bit of a wait before we finally have somebody that we can put into that position. Why not let Mr. Carmen sit for run the department for the next 5 months, 4 months.
All right, and then depending on how things go with write-in votes, there is the theoretical possibility that someone with 2 or 3 write-in votes, depending on
I hope not.
could win the office for some period of time, even
for
if
3 years. It's a 3 year.
No, but if the office is abolished, I think they would take office.
No.
Oh, they wouldn't.
No,
Okay.
no.
All right, Franklin. So then we have one competitive race, school committee, and then every other town office.
That's right. We have a competitive school committee race. It's been very friendly. The 3 candidates always show up at the same place, and they've been, and they're basically just looking for, they're going out and trying to get the vote. So it won't. I don't think there's any controversy. Like we were talking about earlier about people who are more political.
Right.
And these are not political people. These are people looking to do a good job on the school committee. So
and if you talk to people around town, people have good things to say about all of them.
That's right.
So.
It's one of those. You look at. I say again. You only need to look across the country. All across the country, you're seeing school committee school committee meetings turning into just these culture wars and things like that. Here, we have 3 candidates who simply say, "I want to do a good job," and help students and help the district.
Right. So Belmont will be bucking the culture war trends, at least with respect to the school committee race. And then we have one person running for select board, Elizabeth Dion.
I think you'll see, having talked to her several times and interviewing her, she has some very, she's more of an out of the box kind of person. She's been advocating for a number of important changes to zoning bylaws to make it easier for businesses to come into Belmont. So I believe that she and other people, like-minded people, might be moving towards our special fall town meeting, maybe with some initial changes to the business bylaws and the zoning to make businesses, to allow businesses to come in, make it a little easier. But she also has some very future thinking in terms of what to do with West Belmont, basically the country club.
Yeah.
And that would be, work with a developer and work with the country club and work with the town, work all together, rezone for a possibility of developing that area.
All right. All things that would be helpful for town revenues.
That's right.
Okay. And should we move on then?
Yeah, we got one last
All right,
thing,
and
that interestingly goes to what we were just talking about, businesses and zoning and helping people go forward.
So we're talking about a new business.
That's right. We're talking we're talking about a new restaurant, and it's always exciting when we talk about a new restaurant. And this is something that we were talking about back in April, May of last year, and that is the good old Five and Dime. Over in Cushing Square,
the old Ben Franklin.
The old Ben Franklin has been talked about of having a sushi Japanese restaurant, a really cool concept by Jack Tsai, who is a member of the Economic Development Committee.
Okay.
And just talking to him, it sounds really exciting. It'll be sushi and sake and real Japanese like diner food. And
now,
it looks great.
Let me ask you, Franklin,
and what's happening is, I should say, what's happening is we're seeing some activity at the site, and also he will be coming in on Monday to the select board to ask for a liquor license.
Okay.
So he is now moving forward on that, and this looks like a really cool restaurant coming to Belmont, real international one. So looks good.
So what are we likely to see with the select board and the liquor license? Is this a pretty non-controversial application?
It's not. He'd come to the board before. You know, he said what he would like to do, and I think the board is so accepting of, like, let's put something in one of these empty storefronts that we have. He wants to do good. He wants to have it. Let's try to make it as easy as possible. And the select board has not been restaurant unfriendly. If people are looking for licenses or things like that, they pretty much step forward and say that's a good idea. And of course, the name it has now a name, and I'm going to brutalize this, but it's Hanami Restaurant. Yes.
Okay. All right. So a new Japanese restaurant at the former Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin would even be appreciative of the sushi.
Yeah, he would get up early for it.
All right. Well, thank you, Franklin. You can see more of Franklin's reporting at Belmontonian.com. Be sure to tune in next time. I'm Mike Crowley, and we will see you then.